All right, 7th grade, I am going to teach you an awesome, quick little trick that is going to make dealing with ratios that have fractions so easy for all of us. So this strategy I'm going to show you is called extremes over means. And this is for simplifying ratios with fractions. So now we will have one strategy or one method for every ratio with fractions in it. So it's 3 quick steps, and when you see it, the examples worked out, you'll see how easy this is. So first, we need to turn all numbers into fractions. So we're going to change whole numbers to fractions by making them have a denominator of 1, and we'll change any mixed numbers into improper fractions. That's the first step. Then we simply rewrite the ratio as extremes over means. So in our new ratio, we'll have one number on the top and one number in the bottom. And I'll show you how to do that. After we have put extremes over the means, then we just simplify or reduce our fraction to lowest terms. So let me show you what that looks like. Here is an example problem. If we have the ratio of 4/5 to 6, this is messy to have to try to simplify. So we have talked about multiple strategies for solving these depending on where the fraction is. Now you can use this extremes over means strategy for every single problem. So here's how it works. My first step says to change all numbers into fractions. I have a fraction on top, so that stays, but on the bottom I have a whole number. So I'm going to rewrite 6 as a fraction by putting it over 1. So remember that a fraction bar truly means division. This is really saying 4/5 divided by 6. So that's why this trick works. So I'm going to take my extremes, and what I mean by that are the numbers that are furthest away from this division bar, this fraction bar. So that would be 4 and 1. Those are my extremes because they are furthest away from my fraction bar. The means are the numbers that are closest to the fraction bar. So that would be my 5 and my 6. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these numbers and simply divide them. So I can do 4 divided by 1, which is 4, and that's my extreme. That's the number that goes in the top. I'm sorry, I'm multiplying these. 4 times 1 is 4. And then I'm going to take my means, 5 and 6, and I'm going to multiply them. 5 times 6 is 30. So that goes in the denominator, extremes over means. Now I use my third step, which is to simplify. I know that I can reduce this fraction by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. And we're all set, all done with that problem. So 3 quick steps. Let's look at another example. On number 2, we have 3/8 divided by 4 1/2. Remember, this big fraction bar really means division. So my first step says to change all numbers into fractions. I have a fraction on top, but I need to change my mixed number into an improper fraction. So to do that, I'm going to take 2 times 4, which is 8, plus 1, which is 9, and I'm going to keep my denominator the same. So I keep the 2, so 4 1/2 becomes 9/2. I'm going to keep 3/8 on the top because that's already a fraction. So now I have changed all my numbers into fractions, like my first step says, and now I'm ready to rewrite the ratio as extremes over means. So let's figure out which is which. Remember, my extremes are the numbers that are farthest away from my division sign. So those are my extremes. So I'm going to take those two numbers and multiply them. 3 times 2 is 6. And now I'm going to identify my means and multiply them. 8 times 9 is 72. So I have extremes over means. Now I can simplify or reduce to lowest terms. So I know that I can divide 6 by 6 and get 1. And 72 divided by 6 is 12. So I have my final answer reduced to lowest terms, 1/12. Let's look at one more example here. Sometimes we might have a whole number in the numerator, but a fraction in the denominator. Doesn't matter if I have any kind of ratio with a fraction, then I'm going to use extremes over means. So first, I'm going to rewrite this ratio so that my numerator is a fraction as well. So I can take a whole number and make it a fraction by putting it over 1. So I'm going to write 6 over 1, and then my denominator stays the same as 4/3. Now I'm ready for step 2, which is to rewrite the ratio as extremes over means. So I identify my extremes, the numbers that are farthest away from my fraction bar. I have a 6 and a 3. 6 times 3 is 18, so that goes on top, extremes on top. Now I identify my mean, which are 4 and 1. Those are closest to the fraction bar. And 4 times 1 is 4.
Teachers, at this time, we're going to do our lockdown.
Sorry about that. Now our last step, we are just going to reduce the fraction to lowest terms and simplify it. So I'm going to divide the numerator and denominator by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I get an answer of 9/2. So the most important part is to remember to start by changing all numbers to fractions, and then we are going to identify the extremes and the means so that we can rewrite the ratio as extremes over means and simplify, and you have now successfully solved all of your ratios with fractions.